Welcome to another episode of Teen Minds Redefined, where we strive to redefine the relationships we have with our teenagers and just foster their growth into their own authentic selves as we watch them become these amazing adult human beings. And today we have Deece Cassilas. And I am so excited. Deece is not only a number of things I'm going to go through here, but he has a podcast as well called The Social Hour, and I highly recommend it. It's great to listen to. I'm really enjoying it. So Deece is an internationally touring Latino comedian who has carved his path from South Central LA to becoming a successful entrepreneur in the entertainment industry. With over 15 years of experience in comedy, Deece has graced the stages across America, Canada right here, Mexico, Costa Rica, Belize, and the Bahamas. He's been featured on various platforms, including LMAO TV, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Tubi, a Roku comedy channel. Notably, Deece has released 2 albums, the Northwest Comedy Mixtape, Volume 1 and 2, and has been voted Northwest Best Comic for over 5 consecutive years. Yay. His recent special, Not Your Cup of Tea, showcases his biting and sarcastic comedic style, blending big city energy with small town charm. And while audiences adore Deece's humor, his parents have a more lukewarm view of his career choices. Nevertheless, Deece's story serves as an inspiration for parents and teens alike, illustrating the importance of pursuing one's dreams, even if they deviate from the typical linear path. So thank you for joining us. It's so funny. Is there anything you want to add to that I might have missed before we dive into this?
I also ran for mayor of a town in Washington State very recently. So I did not win, but also some things happened which changed the trajectory. But I was running for mayor of a city in Washington State.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Are you the first comedian to do this?
I can't imagine I am, but I don't know of any others off the top of my head. But man, I have to imagine, at least, if not as a complete lark, someone has to have at some point,
Well, and then there's I'm intentionally a comedian, and then there's, oh my God, they're laughing at me comedian. So there's a few of those in politics, I imagine.
So most politicians. That's why I ran.
So I'm going to just say, the way I find my podcast guests is I'll either be on Instagram or Facebook, or I'll see a quote or whatever it is. It's always an energy. I'm like, oh, I really like what they had to say. And I don't specifically go, who can talk to parents or who can talk to teens? Because everybody there's some connection somewhere. Sure. And so what I like to do is, my main thing is kind of shift perspective for parents and just kind of look at, what do we have to do in order to let them be who they are?
Yeah.
And it always started out when I first started even this, it was, here's a diagnosis and how do we help them? And what do we say to the teacher? And how do you help them at home? And it has evolved to this. It always begins with us and the shit we have to do, because whatever they're doing is triggering us. And it's our trigger.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of moved into that direction. And so when I saw that your parents weren't real pleased with this decision, I thought, oh, I have to get this guy on because this sounds like a lot of fun. So let's talk first. Where are you now? What are you doing now? Like currently, what's lighting you up right now?
Right now, I live in Texas. I moved to Texas just over a year ago. Love it. Very happy with with Texas life. That's so, I'm from LA, kind of lived all over, mostly LA, but I did live in Washington State for about 10 years recently, and then moved to Texas a year ago, and it's great. I love it. I'm in the middle of a little bit of a break. I'm taking the first couple months of 2024 off of touring, so it's been nice. The last 5+ years I've spent more time on the road than I have at home, so I'm just enjoying I'm still doing stuff locally, but just kind of taking some time off the road and working on a comic book that I wrote, working with an artist to finish that up in the next couple months.
No, not a book on comedy, but an actual comic book.
An actual comic book, yes.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
yep. So that's kind of the next adventure. That's what's lighting me up right now. And yeah,
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. So from where I'm going to try and go backward. And it's so funny when I was reading your bio and then listening to your podcast, I'm like, oh shit, this guy's a big deal. Yeah, seriously, like you just, because I don't chase that, I think it's the message and the energy.
Sure.
And then it's afterwards I'm doing this research. Oh my God. And then I remembered you're the comedian, so pressure's off me.
Well, I'm not that big. I mean, here's the deal, show. Like I've done huge shows across the world, and then like last weekend I did a show for like just 19 people. So there's real ebbs and flows of this thing, you know. So yeah, big deal is subjective, but thank you.
No, I'm very impressed. And then how much? I mean, you can't get more material than teenagers, so I think we're good to go.
Yeah.
I've had them, I've taught them, I worked with them. Yeah, they gave me some material for sure.
Yeah, I am there. I've been one. I know that at some point I was one.
Yeah, me too. But I think I was a perfect angel. But we'll see.
Yeah, I like to think so too. You know, the sheriff of where I grew up may say otherwise. But you know,
that's funny. Okay, so can you share with us just from what age did you start thinking this realm? Like at what grade did you start, or what age did you think, I'm not going there?
I think always, you know, it's so funny. My mother likes to remind me of this often, but I think it was my second grade teacher, Miss Moreland. I still remember her name. She, in like the parent teacher conferences, you know, she told my mother that when, you know, my mom asked how I was doing, and she's like, was her diplomatic answer. My teacher said, Deece marches to the beat of his own drummer. So from a very young age, that was kind of my perspective. And, you know, I was always a creative. I mean, as much as I love sports and friends and running and being a kid and doing crazy stuff, I always was also fine and really craved like time alone to just create and write and draw and like think and come up with just interest things that, you know, kind of be like, as I look back, it's funny, like I was having crazy introspective philosophical, you know, dumb, because I was, you know, 8 as an idiot, didn't know anything, but also, you know, you don't know what you don't know, so you're just having these thought explorations at such a young age, and almost with an innocence that makes them more interesting, I think, again, as I look back. So I was always just kind of, that was like to think abstractly and just kind of absorb a little bit of everything.
And so, at what point were you like? Did your parents try to rein that in? Did they say, "Well, that's a really nice hobby, but you need like"? How many conversations I had with parents? Yeah, that's great that they want to act. That's great, but they need a backup plan.
Yeah. That's kind of you to assume they were interested. They they you know, that would have involved burning some calories. They weren't that interested in what I was doing at all, good, bad, or indifferent. So, you know, I just kind of was able to explore that a little more, for, you know, sometimes to my detriment, sometimes sometimes not, but I mean, honestly, especially now at my age and looking back, it's, despite everything that some people would view as negative that I did or was done to me or was involved in, or, you know, whatever, everything that everything like made me and got me to here, and really was, I don't know if there's much I would change.
Oh, I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. So at what point then, so where did you get to in like, did you finish high school? What did you do there?
Oh man, again, not kind of you to assume I went to high school. I actually dropped out of school in the middle of my 8th grade year and moved out of my parents' house. Yeah, I was it was like 15 and left school, left my parents' house and went kind of out on my own. So
And then what?
then a lot of things. Some of them, there's statutes of limitations. I probably still can't,
I hear you.
can't fully disclose, but you know, yeah, I had a lot of friends that were older, you know, 18 to 21 plus. So, and I was pretty self-sufficient financially. I was working and able to make money. So I rented a room from some friends who I knew who had a room for rent. And I had purchased a car that year, you know, for $500. Bought a 75 Chevy Nova that I was driving around. So, you know, I was kind of doing my thing, and you just kind of figure people, I mean, here's the thing, and don't get any I mean, I don't know if kids or teenagers listen to this, don't get any wild ideas, but like people are more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. And when put in a position of difficulty, I mean, I was always in everything, I always bet on myself. And I kind of found myself, you know, you figure it out. You figure it out. And so I certainly wasn't 100% success all the time, but made it.
So when did you first get up on stage?
First time I did stand-up comedy, I was let's see. It was probably about 17 years ago. Is that right? It would have been like 2005, 2006, somewhere around there. So I don't know how old that would have made me. I was born in 82. You guys can do the math. See, I didn't go to school. You know, whatever, 20,
Yep.
26, 25 or something. It was at a little bar called Pete's at the Beach in Long Beach, California, where I'm from. And I had, grew up in Long Beach, and I moved away, and I was gone for a while and back and forth, and had been back there permanently for a couple of years. And this little bar used to do an open mic, and I love comedy, so I'd go down and hang out and watch because it was the only comedy around that I knew of. And it was kind of this bar I hung out at anyway. And the guy who ran it, his name was Steve. I started hanging out and talking to him after the shows, and getting drinks with him. And we'd shoot sorry, can we swear on? Okay. So we shoot the shit, and he's like, hey man, you're funny. He goes, you should try this. You ever thought about trying this? I go, yeah, I thought about it. I mean, I've written jokes and I always wanted to, I just never knew how. He goes, well, you're here every week. He goes, next week you're going up. I said, okay. And I did. And I got bit by the bug. And that's usually what happens when you go up. You either like don't ever want to do it again. You're like, I got that out of my system. Or you go, I will do this forever. And I will sleep in my car and get paid in chicken tenders to make sure to do this again. And then you do for the next couple of years. You do that as you pursue this ridiculous goal of standing in, trashy roadhouses, hoping people like your little yucks observations about travel is weird,
It's funny. I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, so was there a point in any of those initial stand-ups where it was just like a complete like a bust, like just a bust.
Oh yeah.
Dead silent. And then what goes through your head?
That still happens. I'm not going to sure. I'm going to tell you right now. And I mean, 15, 17 years, like, I mean, I've been doing this professionally full time for nearly a decade, and it's still, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I did a set that went very poorly, you know? And I mean, any comedian in the world, the best comedians, Dave Chappelle tell you, it's not always a hit.
Yeah.
So but if you're not bombing, you're not taking chances, you know?
Oh,
You're not
yeah.
you're not taking swings, and sometimes you got to take big swings to get a home run, and you're gonna whiff sometimes, but that teaches you how to swing better and keep your eye on the ball. It's just part of it. But yeah, early on, but also I mean, I'm like a robot. I don't care. It's like I was just like, whatever. There's good ones, there's bad ones. You try again. You know, it's okay. It didn't really discourage me. It was always just, well, try again next time, you learn something. And that was my takeaway. Like, you know, any failure, you learn something from it and figure out because I mean, when you start comedy, you have no idea what you're doing. You're just up there. You don't even understand what you're doing, how the magic works. Eventually you start to figure it out, the mechanics and joke writing, and it's just reps. But like, you're just trying to capture just lightning in a bottle and figure out what works. So you're going to bomb a lot of times, a lot of times, but you got to be delusional to even try, to think that I'm going to walk up on stage, nobody in this room knows me. You're going to hand me a microphone and I have 3 minutes, and after I'm going to make you all laugh. Like, you have to be a crazy person to think that's going to work. So
it amazes me. It totally amazes me. My kid, she's 31 now, but when she first started, when she finished, she went to college, and when she was writing comedy, she was as a side thing.
Yeah.
And I'd always said to my kids, listen, if you want to do something, find someone who's already doing it 10 years from now, because if they love what they do, they're happy to share it.
Yeah.
And then you avoid the little bombs that you don't need to step on the way. And so she found someone who said, if you want to write comedy, you got to do comedy.
Yeah.
This is the quietest kid you'll ever meet. Every teacher meeting was, she doesn't raise her hand, she doesn't participate, she doesn't talk, blah blah blah. Like, literally does, like, so shy, introverted, whatever it is. Anyway, so I got her this pack to Second City.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And part of the grad was you had to stand up at open mic night and do your shtick. And I was sweating. I mean, I was sweating. You do nothing but encourage, right? Yeah, go, go, go. You got this. You got this. And I was literally shitting my pants. And this kid knocked it out of the park. I kept going, who the fuck is she? Like, she killed it.
Yeah.
And I thought, what is this? Like, this is amazing. But as parents, like, I was crapping. Like, honest to God, I was so nervous. And I know she's very funny writing. She's got a great wit and timing, but I was really nervous. And I'm thinking, okay, here's the lesson. Like, just sit back and let it go. And, you know, what would you say to parents? Okay, your kid got up there, your kid wants to try something, and you're scared for them because I mean, I didn't think she would suck, but if you heard your kids sing and they couldn't carry a tune, but they want to get up on stage and they want to do it. Like, what are we saying to parents?
Yeah. It's like, you know, maybe karaoke night is more your speed than, than Broadway. Yeah. You know, find a local Chinese joint and hit there Friday nights and go get a, Mai Tai and sing some Billy Joel in the back, but don't, maybe Juilliard isn't for you.
Well, and how important is it? Or what are your thoughts on just let them try it? Like, just let them try it. If I had it been for me worried about my kid, I would have said, oh my God, please don't get off on stage. I don't want you to be hurt. I don't want you to hear silence. But I didn't, thank God. But
Well, I'm a couple things. First of all, I've said for a long time, so I used to do improv also, and I used to teach improv. And I used to tell I said to a million people who have no interest in doing comedy in any shape or form as a pursuit, but I think everyone should take an improv class. A basic intro to improv, you take, half a dozen classes. It's just going to teach you some basic things about, it'll make you better in conversation. It'll make you better in interviews. It'll make you better in a lot of things. And what people don't realize is like improv, they think it's about being funny. It's really about listening. And listening to the people around you and picking up on cues from people around you. So, like, as far as trying it, yeah, I think everyone should try that aspect. But even stand-up comedy, when people like, I've always thought about it. Should I try it? And I go, just do it. I go, I guarantee you, your first time there, you won't be the worst person there.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. I've watched a million open mics in a million cities. You could be so bad. I go, you will not be the worst person there. There is some sociopath who's been walking up on that stage for 10 years, for 3 minutes every Tuesday, and doing impressions of, like impressions of Mary Poppins if she was an astronaut. You're like, and just going out and some crazy shit, and you're like, yeah, just go. And you won't be the worst person there. And the people who go watch open mic happen, those crowd members, they remember two people. They remember one person for sure, whoever's the worst. Second, they maybe remember the best person, and everyone else they forget. Like if you can go up there and be forgettable, you just got a W. So and just go try it, find out. You never know until you jump up there and find out.
Oh, I love it. So tell me, what are the standout moments for you? What are this, like, I'll never forget this moment, I'll never forget that moment, good or bad, I don't care. As far as
like in my comedy career?
Yeah, start there.
I'll start with well, I'll never. So there's a lot of moments here's the thing about being a stand-up comic is not only are you delusional, but you're also it's just you're cynical, and we have a demented outlook. And generally, I found this with myself and most stand-up comedians, we have a hard time remembering the highs. Good shows rarely stand out. Good shows, like, what we remember most is the bad shit and the crazy things that happen, like the crazy shows. Like I walked into a show in Colville, Washington, and I'm Latino. I'm with my buddy who's Korean, and we're meeting a guy we've never met who's supposed to do the show with us, and he's a black guy. Okay. Which already sounds like a setup for a terrible joke, Latino, Korean, and a black guy.
Walk into a bar.
My buddy Tony, who was like this gregarious guy, just like, bullshit talk to him. He walks up and just walks right at the bar. And he's like, "Hey, you guys here for the comedy show tonight?" And these two guys just turn and look at us. And one of them just straight up gives us the Zig Heil, like Heil Hitler, like just, ow. We're like, I just go, okay. Like, this is going to be a fun night. We're going to die. And like, then the black guy gets there and it gets worse. And, like, we spent the whole night playing defense against people trying to get on stage and fight whatever comedian was on stage at the time, because they just hated anyone darker than, Tom Selleck. And it was just a wild, like nights like that are the nights that I remember. Because those are the ones you talk about more. It's like you don't talk about, yeah, we had a good show, and there's not a lot of follow-up questions. Great, yeah, glad you had a good show. But the when you commiserate with other comedians on the wild shows, that's the ones that really stick out.
Oh my gosh,
Uh,
that is so funny.
yeah.
Now I want to like play metaphor here with the hecklers in your audience.
Yeah.
And I know, like you said, how many teens listen to my podcast. Listen, I tell parents if they want to ride to the mall, then they're listening to the podcast in the car. And that's probably because I can imagine my teenager saying, I'm not listening to anything you listen to. That's ridiculously lame.
Yeah.
But so hecklers in the audience, hecklers in your life, like how do you handle that?
Well, what hecklers fail to realize is that, especially like if you're an open mic, it's a little different. But if you're like a show and you're talking to someone who's on stage holding a microphone, there's a good chance that is a seasoned professional whose whole career and mortgage is paid by him talking shit and being very witty and fast. I doubt that the guy who's half in the bag with a GED who works at the sawmill is that quick and gonna really get one over on a guy who does it as a living. So it's like stepping into a wrestling match with a Kodiak bear. It's like, yeah, you might get a swing in, but I guarantee when they swing back, it's gonna count more. So it's, there's ways to go about it. My personal favorite way to deal with hecklers in the audience is there's a way to get the rest, because the rest of the audience is having a good time, and the rest of the audience generally wants to hear the show, and they don't want to hear some dumbass make a show about themselves. So what you do is you just get the rest of the audience to hate this person, and then the rest of the audience will completely shame this person so much and throw so much shade at this person that they want to crawl out of their own asshole and back to their mother's womb and never been born. And then you can just look at them with a straight face and be like, I wanted to hear what you had to say, buddy, but turns out like they all hate you. And everyone just cheers. And then you're like, well, what are you going to do? And then they're shut up. They shut up.
I love it.
No.
That's good. Okay, so you've moved, or is this at the same time the entrepreneurship? What is this entrepreneur? What are you doing?
Well, oh man, what am I doing? Well, I've done a lot of things over the years. Currently it's kind of presents itself in, I am again, internationally touring stand-up comedian. I'm my own agent. I'm my own manager. But I also run a production company. So I book and produce comedy at, I think I'm probably somewhere over 40 venues in 19 states. So, I've got comedy events. So, booking comics, getting comics paid, finding venues, creating shows, producing shows. So a lot of that takes up a lot of time. And then, writing, again, the comic book, that's, that's the next venture I'm committing myself to. Which will take away from my stand-up time a little bit, but that's okay. Happy to be home a little more. I do the podcast. I've done stuff outside of that. I was the head of a podcast network for a while where we were finding and producing shows. We had probably 20 shows on the network at one point. About a year ago, I left the network. Just because I didn't have time and wasn't, looking to cultivate and produce podcasts anymore. It's just a lot of work. done sketch comedy. I used to do, during the pandemic, I was doing a show called The Social Minute, which was a like 4 to 8 minute weekly news, is comedy news thing, you know, just always finding new ways to explore. The nice thing about comedy, or anything, any creative endeavor, is like, especially when it comes to what I'm doing now, I don't have a boss. I
Mhm.
can look any way I want it to look. I can, as much fuckery as I want to, because the only one, at the end of the day, the only person I have to make sure is okay with it is me, and make sure I can still pay my mortgage. And as long as those things are all happening, like, I can explore the genres and the way I present it and what I want to do with it in any way. If I want to put money into doing a sketch comedy and film a bunch of sketches, we can do that. There's, you can do it. Yeah. And I like that freedom is available to anyone. That freedom is so available these days in the gig economy. It's like you can really find something you like and find a way to make money at it, I feel like.
I love that. And that's exactly, kind of the path I wanted to get down here too, is, I find that a lot of people I'm interviewing and, doing my own work on the side, is you wait till you're this age and then you go, shit, there's more. There's
Yeah.
there's other stuff.
Yeah.
And why am I waiting till I'm 55 plus tax to do that, as opposed to like really fostering it, and now fostering it in the kids coming out of high school. Like, talk about that, a different path. Like, not everyone, I 25 years I worked with kids with disabilities. College and university, not always the gig.
Yeah.
But what COVID really gave me is this window that they could have, that they could get online and they can just do their thing and just figure it out. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. If they love it, they will find a way. And I would I'd like to, hear your take on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, like I said earlier, like, I always bet on myself. And I always tell people, always bet on yourself. Like, you will find a way. With your back against the wall, you would be surprised how often you can make things happen. And I kind of like, you've got to be willing to, like, delayed gratification, which is very challenging for people, especially in today's, drip of serotonin, addicted cell phone instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
I ordered it 10 minutes ago, and Amazon dropped it on my head 16 minutes later, that type of crap. But like, delayed gratification is so good for you, and so it teaches you a lot, and also it makes you appreciate it a lot more. But I mean, realistically, like, again, just from the outlook of comedy, you do stand-up comedy for years. If you really want to pursue it, you'll do it for years, for free to near free, potentially losing money sometimes, because you'll be like, well, I gotta drive to the 5 hours to do a 8-minute spot for $25, but the manager's there that night, and if they see me, maybe they'll book me to host a weekend, and then I get to do 5 shows over a weekend that pay me $25 each. But like, then it's like, okay, but then maybe you start working for them, then eventually you get to feature, and then it's like, that is what you do for so long. And you've got to be able to do that with any career path. Like, front load your effort and be willing to do that. Because if you're not willing to do that, you're not aligned with actually doing it. Find something you would do for free. It's like, people always ask me, like, what do you like doing in your free time? I'm like, well, in my free time, I love comedy and comic books, and that's what I do for a living. So like, it's it's kind of, and I like run a little dog rescue. I've got a bunch of dogs. I love dogs. So it's like, I get to do everything I love.
Oh, I
You
just
know?
lost my rescue.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got a couple.
God. Yeah,
uh,
actually, my daughter rescues from a Texas organization.
yeah, I actually interviewed a writer out of Ottawa, Ontario, a
Mhm.
couple weeks ago, and he was saying the same thing. He says, it's hard that a lot of the fat pounds, like the animal places up there, get their dogs from America that are because there's so many just
Yeah.
strays.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to
oh,
sidetrack. I hear rescue dog and my heart goes boom.
yeah, it's tough. I've had a lot and lost a lot, but yeah, I mean, just be willing to put the effort in. If you're not willing to do that, it's probably not the right thing for you. It's probably not what you actually want to do. And like looking back, I don't know. It's crazy to think how little they pay comedians, but also like you're getting immeasurable amounts of uh knowledge and experience. It's almost like I look back and like I should have been paying these clubs to let me work. Like, the people I got to open for and connections I made and opportunities. It's wild. So it's really, you've got to be able to just be willing to sacrifice. And sometimes for a long time, like I was writing the show with a couple of my friends. This was probably 10 years ago now. So I was not doing no, longer than that, because I wasn't doing comedy full time. I was doing comedy, but I still had a day job.
Mhm.
And these were not comedians, but they're buddies of mine, and we were writing this show that we were going to produce and star in, and this go up. I was writing it and whatever. And I kept telling them, like, okay, so we're gonna have to sacrifice in time, fun, money for probably like the next couple years. And like a buddy of mine was a big Seahawks fan, right? Seattle
Mhm.
Seahawks.
Yep.
And one of the only times we could all get together was Sundays and Mondays, both football days. And I told him, I'm like, hey man, I go, what if I told you that instead of watching all 16 Seahawks games for the next 5 years, you could only watch 7,
Mhm.
6, 7 of them. Not great, but I go, what if I told you that you had to do that, but then in 6 years, and then for the rest of your life, you could have box seats at the stadium to watch the game
Gosh.
in person. I go, would you take that deal? And he goes, absolutely, I'd take that deal. And I said, that's what I'm trying for us to do. We just have to be willing to put in that work for the next few years. It's going to suck. But then in 6 years, all that will have been worth it forever.
Yeah.
Because now you're set forever. And that's hard for people are short-sighted, and it's hard for them to look down the road, but you've got to be able to think, because I mean, ask anyone. It's like, I'm 41. If you ask me what, in my head, I feel 30,
Yeah.
Time's 3 years going to go by like that, 5 years like that.
Mhm.
Talking about a commitment of a couple of years. What are you waiting for? Do it. And then that time will be done. And then you've got, if the rest of your life to eat off of that.
Yep. Yep. And I feel like that goes anywhere. If you're thinking of doing something as a kid, or your teenagers going, I don't know about this, find somebody like you, find somebody like me, find somebody like whoever that said, okay, this is what it's going to look like for a while. But if it's what you're getting up in the morning before the alarm for, right? That's the energy.
Yeah.
That's the deal.
Yeah, it's attainable, because I mean, I always tell people, I'm like, listen, I go, I'm a Mexican with a GED. I come from the inner city. I was a felon at 13. I've been in and out of jail most of my life. I grew up in gangs, and I'm like, and then at 24 years old, I was running my own independent consulting company, making 6 figures a year that I built from the ground up. And then parlayed that, quit that to pursue comedy, a gig that paid me nothing, but I left that to pursue comedy. And then that took me years, but I did that. And now I get to do that for a living. And it's like, people always like, does comedy pay? And I'm like, yeah, I bought a house. I bought I pay, it's like, I moved across country, bought a house. I'm like, you can do it. It's just gonna be tough for a while on anything. But it's worth it,
Yeah. That's the mic drop. Oh, by the way, here's my history.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's doable. You just gotta want to do it and be willing to sacrifice, be willing to get, put in the time and the effort and get there.
And so let's leave it now with a message to the parents. What do you wish if you were home and it's grade 8, it's grade 9, it's grade 10? What do you wish? What do you not? And that I know you wouldn't change anything, so that's not what I'm saying. But if you were the parent, what are you saying to your kid?
Well, say there's a lot of things I'd say. One thing I would also do is, I think everyone's very busy now. I get it. Parents are busy. It's hard. You got to work a couple jobs, but like, find out what your kid is interested in and push them towards that and help them find that. Because I mean, kids aren't as dumb as we think. And I think most kids, what do they say? Like, every kid's born an artist until it's like taught out of them or beat out, whatever the saying is. But, if you can get them going on that trajectory early, I knew I wanted to be creative and write in some form or fashion, literally from the time I could put pen to paper. That's all I wanted to do. And, that's not cultivated in at least the American school system. I don't know how it is in Canada, but yeah. So, I mean, it's like, you're just taught to be a cog in a wheel, and not buck the system. And it's like, no, we got to buck the system. Parents, get at it, find what your kids are interested in and support it, foster it, push them towards that. Help them find someone who does do that, or a way to do that more. It'll keep them out of trouble. It'll get them on the right path soon. They'll be happier. That's the best way to do it.
And have faith that they know what they're aligned to do.
Yeah, and also let them fuck up. And here's the thing too. Like, there's I always quote this. It's kind of cheesy, but also it resonates really well. Have you ever seen the movie The Curious Case of Benjamin Buttons?
Yeah.
With Brad Pitt and stuff. Great movie.
Excellent.
But there's this scene at the end of the movie, as the lady he loved, she's getting older now, and he's getting younger, and he's left her because he doesn't want to, ruin her life and he wants to let her live her life, And there's this monologue as it cuts through scenes of him living his life too, of him in all these different places and doing all these different things. And he kind of, I'm paraphrasing here, but he says, like, just know it's never too late. You can always pivot. You can always change. It's never, basically the gestalt of it is like, it's never too late. You can always decide to do something else. And if you can do something for 20 years that you think you love, and then one day go, I don't want to do this anymore. Fucking quit. Do something else. Find something, if you want to do underwater basket weaving, get a snorkel and hit a YMCA and get in the pool. Whatever. It doesn't matter, Like, just, you will be immeasurably happy, like, doing what you love. And like, there's something I call like the misery index. And I think people don't realize how miserable they are doing things that they don't enjoy. They just think that they're obligated, and there's this baseline low grade depression that they're just used to dealing with. So like, once you start doing, it's like getting out of an abusive relationship. Like, you didn't realize how bad you had until you get on the other side of it, and you're like, oh, I hated that lady. You're like, that was terrible. She wouldn't let me see any of my friends. Just start doing what you enjoy, and you'll realize like your baseline changes.
Yeah. Well, I just was teaching in high school and working with kids for 28 years, and decided one day, I'm waiting for the alarm now. And before I wasn't. I would wake up before the alarm, jump up, and then it was like, no, this isn't doing it. And so I did the same thing, and I just literally quit this year, September. And it wasn't until about a month in, on a Sunday night, I was like, I'm really excited for tomorrow. I get to work on my business. I get to interview people like you. This is, so 100% of my life is so different. And it's only been 4 months, 5 months. See, I didn't do math either, but So I hear you. And the sooner you feel that nudge and just take it, I think it's just go. Yeah.
It's never too late.
Yeah. Good words. Okay. What's next for you besides the comic book? What's next? Where are we going to find you? Where can we hear you? And I was looking on your agenda. I can't come to Texas, but what the hell is Comedy Bingo?
Oh, it's funny. So I actually have to go do that tonight. I usually don't host it. It's just something my production company runs, but we do. We host bingo nights, but we have a comedian host it. So it's just a little more, there's some jokes. It's more fun. It's more entertaining. We also do comedy trivia. So we've got that in a couple places. But yeah, tonight I actually am going to do that. My regular hosts have a show, so I told them I'd fill in for them. But normally you can find me. I'm getting back onto a weekly schedule for the social hour. That's finally happening. I've been not weekly for about 2 years. I did a really good job of being once a week or more for the first 8 years of the show, and then just got very, very busy. And but getting back onto the week, I've got I think 20 interviews scheduled. So that'll be good. So social, I'll be back. I am doing comedy around Texas for the next couple months. Then my spring tour kicks off in Washington State, I believe, in April. Yeah, Washington, Yakima, Washington, on the 12th, I think. You can look at my calendar, people. But then I'll be back on the road a lot. And depending on what happens with the comic book, I'm I am very much pursuing this comic book thing. And my hope is that that's going to take off a little bit more, and I'll be able to stay off the road a little bit. So I will still be doing comedy, but probably less than I have been the last few years, which is okay, because I was doing it a lot. I want to be home more. That is the big thing. I've got that once this comic book is done, I've got another one I've written that's going to come out that we're going to work on. Then I've got another one and another one and another one. So.
Beautiful. Well, you have to send me all the links when they come out. Whenever it's ready to go, 100%. Deece, this has been an absolute beyond pleasure for me. You are so good. And I have like 18 golden nuggets that are going to pop into the show notes for people, because there's just so much that came out of this. I really appreciate it. And we'll hopefully we'll talk again, because I feel like most of my, interviews, I have like a cup of tea and I'm like, I want to crack open a Guinness right now, because this is just one of those conversations.
Well, anytime, let me know.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks so much. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for stopping by Teen Minds Redefined, and we will see you next time.